Hey, welcome to episode 6 of the Elder Podcast. My name is Bri, aka the Elder, and this is a podcast where we talk all things embracing process, embracing our journey. I hope you were able to watch the last few episodes. So the first episode, I kind of talked about why this is called the Elder, why people call me the Elder, and then the episodes 2 through 5, I shared kind of my story coming right out of college, my first job as a resident director at my alma mater, Cedarville University, and I talked about why I left and some of the hurt and pain associated with leaving the institution and some of the things that I walked through. And again, I want to say this again, I didn't share any of that just to share it, to get information out there. I shared it because I feel like it's important as we're really embracing our journeys, as we're embracing our process. I think it's easy sometimes to try and what's the word I want to use, to try and kind of push out the memories that weren't so fond, right? To try to push out the moments that weren't great. But we have to understand that in process and embracing process means even embracing the hard times. And honestly, I talked about in the last podcast that I believe there's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. I'm transparent with everyone, but I'm only vulnerable, with a few. And that's intentional, not only for my own safety and my heart, but it's also intentional so that I don't bleed on the people that I'm called to lead. I hope that makes sense. And we'll probably talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to share my journey because I think it's important for you to understand where I'm coming from, why I handle things the way I handle things now, why I deal with people the way I deal with people now, why I have some of the strengths I have, why I have some of the weaknesses I have. All of these things kind of add up and help us become who we are. There's a book by a guy named Peter Scazzero. It's called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. It's a very popular book. You probably heard of it, but I want to encourage you to read it. I have anyone I disciple, anyone I pastor, I highly recommend that they read that. And if you are a spiritual son or daughter of mine, you know it's been on the required reading list. Okay, you have to read this book. And the tagline in this book says that you can't be spiritually mature unless you're emotionally mature. And so often we fall into this thinking that because we go to church or because we serve or because we read our Bibles all the time and because we pray, again, all good practices, but we can trick ourselves into believing that we're more mature than we really are. We're actually stunted in our growth. And so I think in my own journey in therapy, my own journey just growing, my own journey in being pastored and being led, realizing that some of these moments are important for me to share. One, because it's really therapeutic for me to kind of get it out there, but also in order to help you maybe understand that I didn't just wake up one day and become the leader I am. My experiences, the people in my life, they all helped me get to this space. And in this book by Peter Scazzero, there's a portion of the book where he encourages you to write down all the positive and negative attributes that you get from your parents. So write down all the positive things about your mom, all the negative things about your mom, all the positive things about your dad, all the negative things about your dad. Then he says, kind of write out all the significant moments in your life, all the things you can remember from the earliest age till now. So that soccer game you won, your graduation, your first relationship, your first breakup, all those things. And he said, when you kind of put all this together on one piece of paper or on several pieces of paper, for most of us probably, he said that's your life. That's kind of who you are emotionally. You kind of, if you were to kind of metaphorically put it all in a bowl and shake it up and spill it out, that's just who you are. We're a combination of our life experiences. We're a combination of how we were raised. We're a combination of the people around us. And so I really think it's important that in embracing process, we embrace our journey. One of the things that I want to be very intentional about with this podcast is that I'm only going to really talk about things that I have fully healed from. Let me explain that. There are some things that I'm still wrestling with from past experiences, from different people that I'm just not going to talk about until I'm ready. And the reason why I'm doing that is what I alluded to it a little bit before. I don't believe in bleeding on the people I'm called to lead. I don't believe in kind of throwing up everything out there to kind of get sympathy or to kind of get some sort of empathy from people that God's put me in position to shepherd and to lead well. I've said it to people before, but you have to be crazy to like want to be a pastor. Like you have to be literally insane to want to be a pastor. It has to be a calling, I believe. It has to be something that God has quickened on the inside of you. And he said, hey, I'm calling you to this office. I'm calling you to this position. I'm calling you to this place. And so for me, it was a calling. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And now that I'm in this position, now that I am pastoring, I'm realizing how hard it is. Just, I don't know if pastors have ever said it like that. Again, I'm not saying this for sympathy. I'm just saying keep it 100, right? Like, it's difficult, and in that difficulty, I have to make sure I'm in position to have people in my life that I can be vulnerable with, right? I talked about the difference between transparency and vulnerable. I'm going to be very transparent on this podcast. There might be moments of vulnerability as I see fit, but for the most part, my vulnerability is in my circle. One of the most important things you can do is you got to check your circle, check the people around you. Do you have people that you can really be real with and really be honest with and really put your heart out there with? I have those people, and so that's very comforting to me because I can't always walk into church on a Sunday morning with my emotions on my sleeve. I don't have that opportunity. I don't have that that privilege or that right. As a pastor and a leader, when I show up for a service, when I show up for people, I have to show up and be ready to lead and shepherd people, sometimes even through my own pain, sometimes even through my own hardship, sometimes even through my own emotional distress, right? This last Sunday was Father's Day. I'm recording this after Father's Day. I'm not sure when you'll see this, but I'm recording this a few days after Father's Day, and I think I shared it on one of the episodes, but my father passed away a few years from COVID, and so Father's Day is challenging for me on many levels. My father had a rough kind of last couple of years of his life. On top of his passing suddenly, it just makes Father's Day. It's been very weird for me to say to put it in maybe lack of a better word, but it makes it weird for me. But Sunday was Father's Day, and I had to show up to church. I shared, I believe, in one of the episodes that I now serve as an associate pastor for the Experience Christian Center in Orlando, Florida. And so part of my responsibility is to show up on Sunday and to be present for our people, to pray with our people, to pray them through. There was a lot of heaviness in the church on Sunday because of people who are in similar positions as me for Father's Day, folks who just had to stuff. Life be lifing. I know it's not a correct sentence, but sometimes you got to say it like that. Life sometimes just be lifing. So we all have life happening. And so anyway, so I had to put myself in a position to say, okay, Bri, like, how can I be transparent today and say, hey, today is a weird day for me. I might be a little off, but I still need to be present. And it's because I had those vulnerable places. My mom checked in on me, make sure I was good. I had my siblings. I had my close friends who checked in on me and made sure I was good. Like, it's like I had those vulnerable places, but I still had to show up, and I couldn't bleed on our people. I had to be present. I had to make sure that I was intentional about not putting my stuff in front of them, because I don't have that privilege as a pastor. It's my responsibility to lead and to shepherd and to cover our people. And so by God's grace, I was able to do it. But I think I've had to learn how to navigate that as I've matured and grown as a leader and as a pastor. Like, how do I navigate emotion by being like real and authentic, right? There was like a whole I feel like a whole kind of season where everyone was talking about being real, keep it 100, be authentic. And I'm all for that. But I think you also have to put into that and understanding the beauty and the responsibility that we have as leaders and as pastors and as church leaders, especially, that we have a huge responsibility not to just, bleed and just throw up everything because we're feeling off that day, right? We don't have that privilege. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. And I think also when I'm thinking about this whole thing of being transparent, being kind of real about where you are and being vulnerable, I think it's also important to know and to have boundaries set. And so, again, as a pastor and a leader, my specialty, if you will, my area of specialization is discipleship. I'm passionate about discipleship. I think that's why I'm passionate about helping people embrace their process, embrace their journey. And so in discipleship, I have a lot of meetings every day, basically. I talk to people all day, every day, it feels like sometimes. Some days are busier than others. My phone is always going off with someone wanting to talk or wanting to meet or wanting to connect, and I love that. But there are moments moments where I have to kind of gauge like where I'm at emotionally, and gauge where I'm at mentally. And there are days that I have hard days. I think I talked about one of the episodes that I wrestle with anxiety and depression at times. And so when those days get hard, how do I not bleed on people, but still be present? And one of the things that I've realized is in my attempt to be transparent, and again, being transparent, meaning I don't want to be, I don't want to bleed, but I want to be honest. And so one of the things I do, if someone messages me and says, "Hey, Bri, can you talk?" And it's been a really hard day, what I'll do is, and I'm just honest now. I used to not really be honest. I would just take the call and not really be present and kind of just give them some type of like pastoral answer. You know, like I know the Bible, I know how to pray. Like I'll just give them something. I wouldn't really be present. But now if I'm like, I don't have the mental capacity, I don't have the emotional capacity, I'll just text them back or send them a voice memo back and say, "Hey, I don't have the capacity for this today. Like there's a lot going on. I just don't have the capacity for today. Can we reschedule to tomorrow? Or can we reschedule to later on in the week? Or can we reschedule to next week?" And I think I was afraid of responding that way for a while because I think I was afraid that was going to make me look weak. But it's actually done the opposite. People have actually respected me more because I was honest. Because notice I didn't bleed. I didn't like divulge all this information. I didn't say I'm going through this, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, blah, blah. I just said, "Hey, I just don't have the capacity today. I just don't have it mentally or emotionally. And I want to give you my best. I want to put my best foot forward. And I want to make sure that you are ministered to well." And so, can we reschedule? If you need someone right now, can I refer you to somebody else that I think would be a great person for you to listen to? And the respect, I think, has only gone up because I've decided to be that honest and be that transparent rather than trying to pretend like I'm Superwoman. And I think that's one of the things that God's really relieved me of. And I'll tell stories throughout the podcast in moments where I really have tried to be Superwoman. And in that attempt to be Superwoman, I've ruined some relationships. In that attempt to be Superwoman, I had become super prideful. In that attempt to be Superwoman, I had not taken care of myself physically, emotionally, mentally. It was just these moments where I realized that, man, Bri, you don't have it all together, and that's okay. I don't have to have it all together. And I think it's helped me approach process a lot differently now, where I realize, and I've said this before to a lot of folks in different sermons and messages, but nothing happens to the believer or to the follower of Jesus. Everything happens for the follower of Jesus. And I've seen how God will use even the hardest moments of my life for my benefit. And I think sometimes we can trick ourselves into believing that life is just happening around us, like just things are just happening to us. This keeps happening and that's happening and that's happening. And we just put ourselves in position to believe that life's happening to us. No. Everything's happening for us. God is purposing even your darkest moment. God is purposing even that hardship. God is purposing even that issue that you feel like will never be resolved. Somehow, some way, God is purposing it. And so I think it's helped me bring a lot of meaning to even the hard moments. It's helped me bring a lot of meaning to, even as I reflect back on some of these moments, and as I've been preparing for this podcast and preparing about what stories I'm going to share and what stories I'm not going to share, reflecting on those moments has allowed me to be able to, I think, share it in a way that is honest, in a way that I pray is humble, in a way that I pray also helps you with your process. And so I guess today I was kind of all over the place, but I kind of just wanted to, I kind of have most of my episodes thought out, but after I shared that story, I kind of wanted to sit and talk to you and say, hey, here's why I shared that story. Here's why I will be sharing more stories, and kind of to see what would come out of me as I was processing that, to be honest with you. And so, but yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway I want you to have is that if you're a leader or a pastor, we don't have the luxury of bleeding on people. And in that, make sure you check your circle, make sure you have people around you that you can be vulnerable with and you can share all your stuff that's going on. And lastly, just remember that nothing is happening to you. Everything is happening for you and for your benefit. So I love y'all. I hope you are appreciating and loving the podcast. I appreciate all the feedback. Please keep liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting if you're on YouTube, and I will see you in the next episode of the Elder Podcast.